I am doing my review of The Passion of Dolssa by Julie Berry. I'm going to start with a spoiler-free review and then move into spoilers, but I will let you know when that happens so that you can stop listening if you still want to read the book, or, you can be spoiled if you want, but I wouldn't recommend that. So, I'm just going to hop right into the spoiler-free review. I didn't realize how much historical fiction that I read until I made this channel and started making lists of the books I read last year and the books I want to read, and I was like, wow, I'm a historical fiction person. And this was definitely a good historical fiction book, and I really enjoyed it. It took me forever to get into it, but I'll get into that later. I definitely learned a lot. The book is about Dolssa, obviously, and she is condemned as a heretic by her local church, and when she escapes being burned at the stake, they basically have this manhunt for her because they don't want her to A, die on her own terms on the run in the woods and become a martyr, or B, make it to safety and continue preaching her heretical views. It takes place in 1211 when that was a big thing, and Dolssa does make it to safety. She finds refuge with Botil and her two sisters, and I won't spoil the rest for you, but it is a great historical fiction read. I learned a lot about the women like Dolssa who were called mystics. Her story is apparently a combination of several real historical mystics. It was definitely a bit confusing and hard to get into in the beginning. There were a lot of weird names, like Friar Lucien de Saint-Honoré, Senhor Hugo de Miramont. Basically just names that are a mouthful and then you have to get used to. There are also different words from the language Provençal that she'll just put in there, and I picked up on those fairly quickly, but that still was a little bit hard to get into. And then I don't know why, but the sentence structure was hard to get used to at first. That could just be because I came off reading Anna Kendrick's autobiography, which would obviously be written really different from this historical fiction book, but once I got into the book, it was better. Same thing with the plot. There's a bunch of different characters in different places, and once you see how they're all going to start coming together, that's when you really get into the book. The very end of the book was also a little bit confusing too. Honestly, I would have been happy if it wrapped up 3 chapters earlier than it did, but it was definitely not bad. Overall, it was a very satisfying conclusion. The one character that really stood out to me was Botil, more so than even Dolssa or any of the Inquisitors or any of Botil's sisters. And it could just be because we had, I think, the most point of view chapters from Botil, but she just seemed the strongest all around written to me. Not to say that the other characters were bad, Botil just really stood out to me. On Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars. I'm so bad at starring books. I try to only give 5 stars if they're really perfect, and 4 stars is I really liked it, and 3 stars was I liked it, and 2 stars was I didn't really like it, and 1 star is I hated it. But I tend to be more lenient with things, so I don't really have any 2 or 1 star books, even though I'm probably good. But I gave this one a 4 because it was not perfect, but I did really like it, and I would definitely recommend it for anybody that likes historical fiction. Okay, I'm going to jump into the spoiler section now, so if you have not read The Passion of Dolssa, you can go ahead and mute the stream, or skip to the end, or stop the video, because I do not want to spoil anybody, because I hate getting spoiled, and if I spoiled someone, I would feel so awful. So, if you are planning on reading The Passion of Dolssa, maybe, possibly could, then stop the video here. Like I said, it is a great historical fiction, and I really enjoy historical fiction, and I have never read one set in this time period before. It's actually during the Dark Ages, and I forgot that 1211 was the Dark Ages, just because of how smart Botil and the other girls were and how they thought. It didn't seem like a time of no learning, and when you think of the Dark Ages, you think of everyone being miserable, but they just had not a normal life, not a modern normal life, but they were just living their lives, and that's the only life they knew, and it didn't seem dark and dank and miserable. They just had a countryside life. One thing that was a bit odd and took me out of the story a little bit was Dolssa, when we read from her point of view and we read her from somebody else's point of view. She seemed like 2 completely different people. When you read her from Botil's point of view, I really hope I'm saying that right, she seemed like more of just this sweet little innocent, naive girl. She didn't really know her way in the world or anything. But when you read it from her point of view, She definitely seemed a lot more thoughtful and, I don't want to say intelligent, got a lot more deeper sense of her when you read from her point of view. She didn't seem quite so shallow of a person, even though she was born in the nobility. I don't know how to explain this because obviously you're going to get a better sense of someone when you read from their point of view, but it wasn't necessarily that we got more of her when we read from her point of view. She just seemed different. Like, her personality was just deeper. I really, really like how the general ending wrapped up in a nice little bow. I like that we don't really know what happened to Astruga. I like that that's open-ended, but that we did find out what happened to Sazia and to Simo. I was going to say Simo, but it's Simo. And all wrapped up nicely and realistically. It wasn't too perfect for the story. Getting to see her reunite with most of her family was really nice, and just how the whole puzzle pieces finally fit together. I could have done without the last 3 chapters. The from the writer thing really confused me because I could not figure out for the life of me if it was from like Julie Berry or from like the fictional, like the writer of this whole account of Dolssa. I'm pretty sure it's the fictional The Writer. But that confused me because there was the guy who compiled all the stories, Friar Arnaut de Avenhonet, because the writer thing is set in 2014. So is it Julie Berry? Maybe it is. I don't know. If you read it and you understand that, please let me know. Also, the whole last chapter with Botiel's death and then the church boy having to go tell her son or her family, I could have done without that. I liked her future being more ambiguous, but we got that, and it felt much more finished with the writer chapter, or even the chapter right before the writer. Because just the feeling of going out with Botiel about to die didn't feel finished. I felt like if you were going to do that, there had to be more to the story. But overall, I really liked how it wrapped up. Overall, I'm going to be honest, I picked up this book for the cover. I bought this book because I loved the cover, and the summary, it sounded interesting. I would read it. But look at this cover. Even when you take off the dust jacket, it's like this beautiful emerald green. I came for the cover, but I stayed for the story. Once I got past the first 100 pages or so, I was totally invested in all the characters. My favorite, like I said, was Botiel. This wasn't a super spoilery review, but, you know, that's okay. Came for the cover, stayed for the story. So if you've read The Passion of Dolssa, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I forgot to tell you, I love the title, The Passion of Dolssa, because of Dolssa and her connection with God, and then it's like the Passion of the Christ. I don't know. I just thought it was a really clever title, by the way. If you read The Passion of Dolssa, let me know what you thought. If you want to read it, let me know, because I'll probably just respond to you, telling you how I recommend it and I loved it. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you liked the video, and I will see you next time. Bye!